Hey, Laura here, owner of Laura Ray Consulting. Thanks so much for tuning into this week's episode of On Purpose Marketing, a podcast for purpose driven solopreneurs who are looking for a simpler, more aligned way to market their business online. If that's you, stick around. I think you're going to love this conversation. I have Caitie, owner of Caitie Couples Creative, here with me. We're going to be talking all about empathy first copywriting. Truly, if you have ever felt uncomfortable with pushy sales tactics, manipulative marketing, or being told to create urgency when it just does not feel right or doesn't feel authentic, this conversation will help you really market your business in a way that builds trust, respects your audience, and still gets you results. So, Caitie, do you want to just introduce yourself and tell everyone a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, sure. Well, hello, and thank you so much for having me. I'm Caitie. I'm a copywriter who specializes in, like you said, empathy first copy, as well as conversational copy for websites, sales pages, and emails. I am very big on writing copy that doesn't just make you money, but also sounds human and was written with a human experience in mind. And of course, is fun to read too.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I really want to dive into the topic of why does empathy in marketing matter? Ultimately, we both share that value that we really want to have empathy first businesses. But when it comes to the way that you've built your brand, it's obviously around empathy first copywriting. So, what does that mean to you?
I mean, as kind of a definition, is just being able to recognize, understand, and share the feelings and perspectives of another person. It's the proverbial like step into their shoes for a minute and see their point of view. So when it comes to empathy first copy, it's thinking about your readers and audiences, problems, their desires, their experiences, the feelings that they have about those problems, desires, and experiences. It's thinking about the impact of your words on their experiences and feelings. And it's recognizing that the way that you're marketing and the way that you do your business does impact other people beyond their purchasing decisions and taking responsibility for that.
So I remember in our very first discussion about this topic, Caitie, you had said that you can acknowledge somebody's problem without making them feel crappy about it. And it just made me feel all of the feels because there's so many different times I experienced copywriting that made me feel like guilt or shame or, some of those like persuasive tactics that people use, and it never left me feeling good about making that purchase. And to me, I think that's where the empathy part, it goes a lot farther for me. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about problems and the like challenges people are experiencing without making them feel bad, like you said. And there's so many reasons why that's a better move for your business. First of all, it's just mean. Don't do it. But also, like people who are feeling shame are not in a like, I'm ready to make smart and strategic decisions mode. And like maybe you'll get someone to buy because they made an impulsive purchase that they're doing to assuage this like feeling of shame or guilt or whatever it is. But is that really what you want for your buyers? Like, is that the experience you want for them as they're coming into your offer? Is that going to set them up to get the results? Like, do they really need this? That impacts the results that your people get, which then impacts the integrity and the reputation of your program and the testimonials you get. It's all of this like domino effect of like you want to bring in the right people into your program. And so you don't want to be like trying to trick or guilt people into buying something that they don't really need or like isn't putting them in the right position to get the results that you are hoping and promising them to get. And I think in general, just like puts your brand in a bad light. Like, are you really building trust with people who are interacting with your brand and then walked away feeling like crap? Like, I don't think so.
Right. Well, and I don't know about you, but we serve very similar target audiences where, I like working with the purpose driven solopreneurs, the people who are doing it on their own and they have a mission and they have a drive to help others. And I think when you're marketing your business on your own, it's very easy to fall into the traps of feeling like you have to push harder or stress
Mhm.
more urgency because these big gurus tell us to do that all the time. And if we don't do that, we leave money on the table and those different things that they say. But I think it is important to remember that there is a better way. We don't have to get stuck in that. So, as we kind of dive into the topic of like really comparing the pressure to sell, which I think a lot of us have felt that at least at some point in our business, versus the desire to serve, what are some of those marketing tactics that make you feel uncomfortable and why?
I mean, there are so many, but to try to name some of them, I mean, like anything manufactured, like fake countdowns, like scarcity. So like any of that like fake urgency stuff where you're manufacturing these like the situation in order to get people to actually click buy. Anything that makes people feel like there's one path to success, because that's making people feel like if I don't buy this thing or enroll in this program, like I'm going to fail. Making people feel like you need to invest a certain amount of money into yourself or your business, or you're not like serious enough, or you're not like going to get anywhere, get the results that you need. I would also say like master classes and webinars that are just a pitch. Like I feel like, along like in 2020 and like early 2020s, that was a big thing, but we like don't need to be doing that. We don't need to be like bringing people into this like class and pretending we're going to be giving all this value and then just delivering a pitch. I don't think that's happening as much anymore, but still an ick. I also think like, I'm sorry, I'm going to keep going here because I feel like there are so many things. But like income claims that aren't shared with so much nuance and context, I think is really important. I don't know. I think I'll stop. I'll stop there. But I feel like I could like do a whole episode on just that.
Couldn't we all?
Yeah. We've
We've
been
all
there.
experienced it. We've all
Right.
experienced that type of marketing. And I do feel like we are speaking to the business owners who are wanting to do something different. And I think that's why this conversation is so important. So let's talk about how ethical marketing can still create urgency. How do
Sure.
you do that through copywriting right now, Caitie?
Yeah, I mean, it's totally possible. Like sometimes there is legitimate urgency and scarcity. Like sometimes the doors are closing. Like having this launch strategy isn't icky. Having a strategy that says like the doors are opening on this day and the doors are closing on this day, like that's not unethical. Like that's business. And so sometimes there's urgency. Sometimes there is only a couple spots, scarcity. Like fine to pull those levers in your marketing if they're real, but you don't want to depend on them to make the sale or manufacture them in any way in order to get that sale. So like being transparent, if there is scarcity or urgency, explain why. Like follow through on the deadlines that you set. Like if you say you're going to close the doors, like close the doors. I mean, sometimes people will do like we extended it for a day, and I think that's fine. It's like it's all about being authentic and like listening to your audience and like being a human as you're doing it. But urgency is not like it's only one of the things that you need to sell your offer. Like, and honestly, you don't always need it, right? It can help, but it's not necessary. I bought literally millions of things without urgency hanging over my head, like I don't need to feel like this is going to sell out or I'll never buy it. I've bought so many things, so many offers from people. Like if it's what I want and the messaging and the copy is speaking to me, then I'm going to buy it whether or not they're telling me it's going to sell out.
Yeah. And to be honest, like in our audiences, a lot of times we have, savvy users who
Mm-hmm.
can call attention to that right away.
For
Like the
sure.
people who are marketing to me, for example, I can read those tactics a mile away. Like
Mhm.
they do not work on me. And I'm sure that you feel similarly where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, that seems like fake urgency, or
Yeah.
the urgency bothers me and then I really just don't purchase because I'm being stubborn. So to be honest, for me as a service provider, I'm like, maybe just leave off that because
Mm-hmm.
it actually pushes me away
Yep.
typically. But at the end of the day, I do agree with you on all fronts there. I think that there's a way to remain human in our copywriting and in our marketing without it feeling icky. Now, we're talking to people who have a desire to serve. Like that is truly who we both support in our businesses, whether it be through copywriting with Caitie or funnel design with me. Like, what are some ways, like, when it comes to building an ethical business where the desire is to serve, how can we be intentional?
I mean, when we're thinking about how to motivate someone to take action, like without relying on that fear or that shame or those like manufactured strategies, I think when it comes to copywriting and your messaging, you really want to focus on showcasing the transformation, like really talk about real life client stories and, storytelling that's not overly optimistic or over promising, but you're really like painting the picture of what that transformation will be like for the client or the customer whenever they're like buying the program or like enrolling in your services. Being able to explain the benefits in a really clear and also like compelling way where you're really explaining the outcomes that they can expect. Like I said, without overpromising, without like being, this is the ideal person and everybody gets this exact result. Like you have to be real with it. But when you are able to do that, and then also like if you have an experience that you can tie into it, like your own personal experience, bringing that through in the copy and the messaging is really great. There are a lot of ways that you can convince people without manipulating them.
Yeah, I think truly we can both agree here that the bottom line is to be a good human.
Yeah.
as a service provider, as a client, as a business partner. I know that when we had first met up to just talk about this topic, we were even talking about like, just being a good teammate with other
Mhm.
members of the team that you're working on. As service
Yep.
providers, we are working and collaborating with a lot of other service providers. So there's that component. There's being intentional with the collaborations that you say yes to.
Mhm.
There's that mutual respect, having aligned values with the people that you're partnering with and things like that. And I love that part of our conversation because it's something that I hold so dear to my company is that I can connect you to a lot of other really amazing purpose-driven service providers. But when it comes to business, like what does being a good human mean to you?
I mean, I think you nailed a lot of them thinking about like the behind the scenes part. There's the client facing part. There's just the part about being on the internet and how to be a good human in your interactions on the internet. And then there's also the collaborations as well when you're working with other business owners. But I think a lot of it comes down to being genuine. Like not everything you're doing is trying to like set yourself up to make a pitch or set yourself up to be the person that they hire later. Like you're just genuinely cheering people on. You're genuinely like engaging with people on social media. You're responding to newsletters. Like you're just being engaging and you are showing people that you care. Um, and then I think that really lends itself to like the mindset of like people over profit. Like you're not just here to make a profit, you're here to make an impact. And whether that impact is with your services, I mean, I shouldn't say whether because it is, but like the combination of your services, but also like those interactions, the words and the messages that your words send. So your copy, your everything, like every way that you are showing up on the internet has an impact on people. So it's not just about you, it's thinking about other people, not making it just about you.
Yeah. Well, and giving like people permission to do what's right for them,
Hmm.
letting people opt out when it makes sense for them to opt out.
Yeah,
Maybe
for sure.
your membership isn't the right fit for them.
Hmm.
Maybe your course is not the right fit for them. Allowing people the agency to make those choices without feeling icky about the choice that they make, I think is a huge thing. And to be honest, I think that's really about respecting their boundaries and
Hmm. Yeah,
autonomy.
for
And
sure.
when we're thinking like long term, I think that builds so much more trust
Yeah.
than all of the tactics that we've mentioned prior.
Yeah.
So, why do you think giving people permission to say no is so powerful? And if you have an example of how this has kind of happened in your own business, feel free to share.
Yeah, sure. I mean, like you said, autonomy is so important, and nobody wants to feel like they aren't being listened to or respected when they're saying no. Like if they're saying like this is not right for me right now, like it's not my job to convince you. Like I'm not going to chase you down and try to like show you that that's not the case. If they've like closed that door is closed. And I think when you're thinking about launches, whether it's launches or just selling your services, like there are so many different ways that you can be intentional about respecting people's decision not to buy, like whether that's, when I was launching a collaborative offer I have with a designer, if people were telling me in the DMs that like it wasn't the right time for them to buy this offer, I was taking them off of the wait list. Like they don't need to get these emails if they've told me no. I'm not going to try to convince them. Like they've already said this isn't the right time and, explained why. Cool. You don't need to get my sales emails anymore. Giving people the option to opt out of sales emails without like, explaining to me why and then actually opting them out, right? Like giving them the space to say no and then not making them feel bad about that. And like you had mentioned, it builds that long-term trust. Just because somebody says no right now doesn't mean they're going to say no forever. And trying to force them to say yes when they're saying no isn't going to help anybody in that situation because maybe it's just that it's like not the right time. Maybe they just invested in something else. Maybe something's going on in their personal life. And 6 months from now, they are going to be ready. Are they really going to come back to the person who tried to force them to buy it 6 months ago and it wasn't the right time? No, they're going to find somebody else who they actually feel like they can trust. So I think that there's multiple layers about like the long game, the long-term trust, and then just like you said, feeling good about how you're selling things. You don't want to be making money and then feeling like shit because you're like, I force these people to buy this and then they're not getting the results. Like that's not good for anybody.
No. And I think it's powerful to say that there's no right or wrong choice to our clients. If it's not right for you, that's
Mhm.
okay. Because not all of our products or services or templates or whatever we're offering are in alignment with every single person in our audience where they're sitting right then, right there. It
Yeah.
could be that they are wanting to build their business right? But they're in a season where gas prices are $5 a gallon.
Mhm.
Like there was literally I canceled a membership recently and it asked, why are you canceling? And I was like, I promise you it's not because your membership is bad. Like
Right.
look, times are a little bit tougher right now. And I was
Mhm.
just transparent about that and I'm like, right now I'm not leveraging this enough to warrant the cost, but I will be back.
Yeah.
And because I know that I can come back at that same price point without this whole this feeling of if I cancel this, I lose my pricing or,
Right.
like that. That sometimes I actually was in a membership for a long time where that kept me there for a long time. But then when I exited, it was not a great ending. You
Mm.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, in those cases, you have to think about the fact that people are really struggling right now. And I think that's
Yeah.
why this conversation is really important. So I think it's powerful to say there's no right or wrong choice. Or if this isn't for you, that's okay. Like giving our clients that permission to have that autonomy. And to be honest, I think that type of marketing actually creates stronger relationships with your prospective clients and creates a foundation of trust. I know that ultimately we're looking for human connection, right?
For sure. And I think one last thing I would say about that is that it's not just about you, right? You're not privy to what is happening in people's personal lives, what's happening off screen. And like you said, you got the chance to explain, like, it's not about you, it's not your membership, it's, other things that are going on are the reasons why I'm leaving and I'll come back. Sometimes people are going to tell us that. Sometimes people are not going to tell us that. Sometimes there's just no way for them to. Maybe they don't want to. And when we assume that somebody is, leaving a program or, heaven forbid, ghosting their inquiry. Like we can assume that it's about us, about our offer, about our services. We can be like, it's me, they don't like me, but there's no way to know. And so why put yourself through that? I think that's another part of remembering that there are other people having experiences that's like, and that empathy piece kind of comes back in again.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. 100%. Well, kind of going with the theme of human connection, I feel like the hot topic in copywriting and marketing in general is AI. And I think it is important for us to talk about that a little bit today, not a whole lot. But when it comes to just how people are using AI in their business, I think when it comes to empathy first copywriting, we have to discuss can AI replicate actual human empathy?
I mean, sure, like it can replicate it. It's going to try, but a replica isn't going to give the same result. It's like a knockoff, right? Like the cheap version. It'll get the job done, but is it really going to work? Probably not, because it's like you said, you can see through those things a mile away. And if you have this like hollow sense of empathy, this like description of a problem, a description of the feelings, it's not the same as hearing from a human who has experienced those emotions. Like a robot doesn't. A robot doesn't know. And a human is the human's the only option when it comes to being able to really write empathy driven copy that is able to tap into those emotions and those experiences and those challenges, because like I said, the robot, it can't. How could it? And that's not, that's nobody's fault. That's not the robot's fault, but that's not what it's for.
Yeah. So then that begs the question what role does personal experience play in effective messaging?
I mean, it's not necessary, but it can be helpful. Like, for example, like I can write copy for someone when I've never had the experiences that their clients are having or that the person has had. When the person though, my client is telling me about their own personal experiences, if they have had, the same challenges or they can relate to their client in certain ways, that is going to support the copy in a way to be able to be more specific and more like storytelling driven, because we can get really granular with like the exact emotions, with exact experiences, with the thought processes, all of that kind of stuff. So I would say, like for the writer, like I don't need to have personal experience, but if you as the client or you as the person who's writing the copy for your own offers and your own business, if you do have that, if you want you to be telling that story because that is like what people are craving more now than ever, is those real stories, is those authentic moments, those shared lived experiences. That's what they want to be seeing and reading on the internet.
Oh, I agree. And to be honest, that's why I love your newsletter because you just story tell your little heart out.
Yeah.
And I'm, like, a little bit jealous because, like, I mean, I tell stories of my newsletters too, but you just have a special finesse to it.
Oh, thank you.
But you just make it so real and, relatable, and I think that that's a huge way to bring forth empathy in not only, like, email marketing, but also, like, sales writing, is
Mhm.
just being so authentic, where it's
Yeah.
like you are sharing these, like, stories that nobody else can share.
Yeah, and they don't have to be like I think sometimes we hear authentic and, we're sharing our stories and we think like, "Oh my god, like, am I supposed to be, like, telling about all of my challenges and, like, airing my dirty laundry?" And it's like, no. I mean, sometimes I do share those things, like, sometimes you can strategically choose the things that are going to help you connect with your audience in a way where it's like, "Okay, I can be vulnerable and share this thing, and you'll relate to it, and you'll feel seen and supported and feel like, oh, you get it. You really get it." But you don't have to be out here telling every single like secret on the internet. There is it's all about curation. Curating is good. We don't want to be fake on the internet, but we don't have to be sharing every little thing. And so when it comes to storytelling, last week my newsletter was about like a time when I was wearing swishy windbreaker pants and when the class was playing Heads Up 7 Up, if you know that game, the one where you like put your thumb up and they tap your thumb and then they have to guess who tapped your thumb, like how I was immediately known because the person heard my swishy pants walking past them. Like that's not me being out here like, and then I in that moment I realized or like it's not any sort of like here's how hard my life is or the challenges I'm going through. It's just like this unique story that is only from my life and AI can't do that.
Yeah. Well, and as a copywriter too, it just highlights your ability to translate a story like that into copywriting. I do feel like as a copywriter, that makes me want to hire you to write my copywriting because it's like, okay, she can do this for her own business very efficiently on a consistent basis. And to me, that's what I'm looking for when it comes to other service providers that I partner with or collaborate with or hire for my own self? So kudos to you.
Oh, thanks. It's like my favorite thing. I mean, I always say I'm a website copywriter, but there is a special place in my heart for that kind of like storytelling. And there's a place for it on your website, but it's not the same as when you get to write a longer form email.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and for me, I think it just highlights your ability to to write a story in
Mhm.
general. And I feel like a lot of sales copywriting is like that. You are bringing them through a journey and a story that is relatable. It's kind of bringing them back to what we're talking about this whole time is just that empathy first copywriting. So it's one thing to write the empathy first copy, but it's another thing to build an entire business around those values. And I know that that's something that we hold really near and dear to our
Mhm.
hearts in our business. So when you think about your business, like what does that mean for you?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it means remembering that we're all just humans with human needs and humans' emotions out here trying to run businesses and live our lives, and that nothing, and I like really mean nothing, is just about me. It's not about me. And I need to remember the nuance and the context of everybody's lives before I even like start to think that it is about me.
Yeah. So what boundaries have helped you protect those values in your business?
Hmm. That's a good question. I feel like a lot of it is about consuming social media. I think that sometimes it's about how I show up on social media and how I let other people's stories show up and, impact my feelings about myself in my business when I'm thinking about like, is it about me? As far as like other boundaries, I work really hard to talk about my values on social media and pay attention to what other people are talking about or not talking about on social media to help me find people who are aligned with my values. What about you? What boundaries have helped you protect your values?
When it comes to social media, I'm the same way. Like I really protect I don't follow people just to follow people. I follow
Mhm.
people when they are in alignment because when you are scrolling through that feed and commenting on other people's posts, I think that matters. I
Mm.
don't think it's just a follow for follow scenario anymore. The boundary really is treating people like humans instead of transactions. Like I did not first meet with Caitie because I thought she was going to give me something or I would benefit, you know what I mean? Like, I
Mhm.
knew I would benefit from the conversation because she had a glowing review from one of our mutual clients, but,
Likewise.
like, I didn't expect anything from that conversation aside from making a friend,
Yeah.
right? So there's that. But two, in my business, a huge part of it is collaborating with other service providers like Caitie,
Mhm.
like a Google Ad manager, or like a social media manager. Because when it comes to funnels, there's so many components to it, and I do not own all of the parts. I can help you design your landing page, run your meta ads, get your emails sent properly and all of the automations in place, but I'm not going to write your email copywriting. I'm not going to write the
Mhm.
copywriting for your sales page, but I will design it. I'm not going
Mhm.
to plan your social media strategy. But
Right.
to me, I do set boundaries around who I let into my inner circle, who I allow into like my client's realm. At the end of the day, most of us didn't start our businesses to just make money. And so we can kind of wrap up our time today to just say we started our businesses to make an impact. We started our businesses to build meaningful relationships, to make more friends, to create a life that actually feels aligned and has some freedom integrated into it. So if someone listening wants to market their business in a way that feels more empathetic, what's one thing that you would encourage them to remember, Caitie?
I think, I mean, I'm gonna sound like a broken record because I think I've said this multiple times now in this podcast, but it's not all about you. And like, sure, you're the face of your brand, you're sharing your point of view, but you need to know what your people want, what they need, what they feel, what they worry about, what they're excited about, what they do in their spare time. You need to know all of that in order to have a more empathetic and ethical business where you're going to be able to market your offers to people in a way that feels good and aligned.
Yeah, I agree. And when we lead with that empathy and respect people's autonomy, and we focus on building genuine relationships rather than transactional ones, I think that's when we're creating the businesses that not only grow in a healthy way, but they also feel good to run. Like,
Mhm.
I really do feel like we are talking to people who have that desire to serve and want to feel good in the work that they do. That's why a lot of people leave like their 9 to 5s, for example. So, with that being said, do you have any final thoughts, Caitie? And definitely share how people can find you, like your Instagram handle. If there's anything that you are offering right now that you want to highlight, please let the people know.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when you said feel good to run, that's like my mantra. Like going through, even thinking about like empathy first copy, conversational copy, it all comes back down to like creating a feel good business. It's literally the hero, like the headline on my homepage. So, speaking of homepage, I am launching a new website. So, that's a big thing that you want to go check out. It's catiecouplescreative.com. Katie and couples are not spelled the way that you think they are. So, check the show notes. I won't spell it for you. So go check out my website. I'm also on Instagram at the same Caitie Couples Creative, Threads, all those places. Like Laura mentioned, I send a weekly newsletter called The Messy Middle that is very storytelling driven. It's telling stories and sharing strategies that help you feel good in your business. And so I'd love for you to subscribe to that. I'd love for you to come check out my new website because it's been like a year and a half in the making. And I'd love for you to come chat over on Instagram and Threads. I'd love to connect.
Yes, definitely, definitely go follow her on all of the places. I remember right before I met Caitie, the algorithm knew. It knew that Caitie and I were meeting, and it gave me all of Caitie's threads.
I
And
remember.
I loved every single one. And I was like, am I gonna look like a stalker if I like all of her threads before even meeting her?
I remember we got on that coffee chat and you were like, I
Um,
think I've liked every thread that you posted in the last 24 hours. And I swear I'm not like, it's not creepy. And I'm like, I get it. I love it for both of us.
But no, she puts out really great content, so definitely check her out there. If you are new to Laura Ray Consulting too, you can find me on Instagram and Threads as well. Those are my two main channels on social media aside from YouTube. Just the handle Laura Ray Consulting, and I'll link kind of my website and offers in the show notes as well. But for the most part, I am helping you with your funnels. I'm helping you strategize your lead generation strategy. I help online business owners, coaches, course creators, service providers create a marketing ecosystem that actually works for you. It is not a one size fits all game. And that is what I stress. I help you find a clear path forward and help you actually execute on it. So you might be scared of the word funnel, but I promise you it doesn't have to be scary. Just have a quick little conversation with me and I'll explain that not all funnels look the same. But with that said, thank you for listening and I hope you tune in again.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.